الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
Hi and welcome to Worlds Apart, a program that is dedicated to speaking the truth in love. I'm your host, Rommel Gussain, and today we have with us Jay Smith, who'll be speaking to us about ideologies that are truly worlds apart. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me here.
It's always a pleasure to have you come here and share some of your insights with us. Today, what I would like to talk about specifically is Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad. Now tell me, everything seems to fall back on Muhammad. But where did Muhammad get his authority from?
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, what we're really talking about is everything that Islam is dependent on is one man.
Yes.
Because without Muhammad, Islam is nothing.
Wouldn't exist.
Wouldn't exist. Everything comes from his authority. And as we know, all the prophets in the Bible either are referred to or they are, in the case of Jesus Christ, he is prophesied. And there are an enormous amount of prophecies about his coming. Where is Muhammad's prophecies? Where are those that talk about him? And if only Muhammad gives himself his own authority, or the Quran provides that authority, what outside of Muhammad gives him his authority? That's the real question. And this is the question that, of course, Muslims need to convince us with, because how do we know what he's correct? If he's not correct, then everything comes falling down like a pack of cards. It all rests on the shoulders of one man.
Yes.
Everything rests on the shoulders of one man. The Quran knows this. And in the Quran, there are two references that speak about this. Surah 7, 157, and Surah 61, Ayah 6. And let me just open them up here, and let me just go to them, because I think it's important that we read what they say within the context there. Surah 7, Ayah 157 says, "Those who follow the messenger, the prophet who can neither read nor write, whom they find written with them in the Tawrat, in the Injil." Okay, so this prophet can neither read or write. That's Muhammad, obviously. Muhammad could not read or write. Whom they will find written in the Tawrat, which is the Torah, in the Injil, which is the Gospels.
Okay.
So the Quran is very clear that you'll find authority for him. You'll find him written about in the Torah and in the Gospels.
What's the Torah?
The Torah would be the books of Moses.
Okay.
The Torah, as the Jews know it. Surah 61, Ayah 6 says, which is interesting, supports that. And it says, "And when Isa, son of Miriam, said, 'O children of Israel, I am the messenger of Allah to you, confirming the Tawrat before me, and giving glad tidings of a messenger to come after me, whose name shall be Ahmad.'" So Jesus now is given authority to this messenger who's yet to come, according to Surah 61, 6. So these are the two references in the Quran that give authority outside of the Quran itself. One is the authority from the Tawrat in the Injil of this prophet who cannot read or write, and the other was Jesus saying, "There's a messenger who's going to come after me, and his name is Ahmad."
That's very important now, because now it's referring back to an original source, an authority outside of the Prophet Muhammad himself.
Those are the only two verses that we can go to show that both the Old and New Testament, basically Tawrat would be the books of Moses or the Old Testament, and the New Testament are going to speak of this prophet. And then Jesus himself confirms this prophet who's coming after him.
Well, that's fine. That's a valid claim, right?
They've got to find it.
Yep.
So, let's come back to this book.
Uh-huh.
Muslims are scrounging, and they've been desperately trying to find those references to Muhammad in this book. And they think they found it with three sources. Now, there are others ones that are more tertiary. You can go into the more, some of them are just rather ridiculous. Any man that has a sword must be Muhammad. Any man that comes from Arabia must be Muhammad. Any man that has a name that's similar must be from Muhammad. All these, well, these are hopeless. They're not really
specific.
They're not specific enough. So let's go to the one that they say is very specific. And if you have your Bible, and I would encourage those of you who are watching this, just open up to Deuteronomy chapter 18, because Deuteronomy 18 is the one that they look to, because this is the one they say that refers to him. Deuteronomy 18, in verse 15, it repeats the same thing again in verse 18 of Deuteronomy 18. And it says, in verse 15, the Lord your God will raise up to you a prophet. Now the Lord, L-O-R-D, is Yahweh, your God, Elohim. Your Lord, your God, will raise up to you a prophet like me. This is Moses speaking. So the Lord your God will raise a prophet like me. And they usually stop right there. They don't like to go on beyond that.
Why is that?
Well, you'll see why. From amongst your own brothers. So it must be like Moses from amongst your own brothers. Ahmadiyyat had a tract where he goes into this. Says, this has to be Muhammad. This has to be Muhammad. Why? Because he's just like Moses. How is he like Moses? Well, both Moses and Muhammad were orphaned at a very young age. That's true. Muhammad, father died before he was born. Amina, who is his mother, died soon after he was born. So he had to be brought up by Abu Talib, who is his uncle. So therefore, he was orphaned as Moses was orphaned, was given to the Pharaoh to raise up. Therefore, just like Moses, Muhammad's just like Moses. They both had exoduses. They both went from one place to another, bringing people out of captivity. Muhammad went from Mecca to Medina in the Hijrah in 622. Moses went down to Egypt and brought the Israelites back to the Promised Land. So therefore, that's how he's like. They both started theocratic states. That's true. They both did start theocratic states. They both got married and had children. That's true. They both got married and had children. They both had beards. They both had long hair. I mean, you could go on and on and on. There's so many similarities. And so he goes on, all these similarities, but he's missing the most important criteria.
What's that?
What was the mission of Moses? To save his people. What was the mission of the prophet that's going to come after? Jesus. To save mankind. It's the missions that's the same. But let's go back first. Let's look at the criteria. From amongst his brothers. From amongst your brothers, Moses. So what does it mean by brothers? To understand that, you need to go back to chapter 17, verse 15. I love to read in the NIV because it's so clear in the NIV. It says, be sure to appoint over you the king the Lord your God chooses. He must be from among your own brothers. There's again, your own brothers. Do not place a foreigner over you, one who is not a brother Israelite.
Oh, that's clear.
Now you can't get any clearer than that.
No, he's got to be a Jew?
He's got to be an Israelite, a Jew. You're right. So therefore, someone who's going to come like Moses from amongst the Israelites. Is Muhammad from the Israelites?
No.
No. Who do the Israelites come in? What line do they come? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yes.
They come in the Isaac line. So it's obvious this has to be an Israelite, not a Muhammad. But let's go on. I love it because when Muslims bring this up to me, I want to read the rest of the verses because it gives it even more clear as to who this prophet is going to be like. So let's go on to stay in chapter 18 again and go to verse 18, which repeats the same thing. I will raise up for them a prophet like you, Moses, from amongst their brothers. We know that's an Israelite. I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I command him. Verse 19. If anyone does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name. Now, what is the name? What name is he referring to? Or you can see in verse 17. What's the name? The Lord. What's the Lord? L-O-R-D in capital letters is always in the Old Testament Yahweh.
That's right.
So in my name, he must speak in my name, Yahweh. Did Muhammad ever know that name?
No.
Did Muhammad ever use that name?
Never used it.
Did he ever speak in that name?
No.
Never did. So let's continue on. If anyone does not listen to the words that my prophet speaks in my name, that is Yahweh, I myself will call him to account. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded him to say, hold on a minute. God had an awful lot to say here. Does this contradict this book?
Yes.
So an awful lot of things God said here are contradicted by this book.
Exactly.
Which then supports what this is saying. I have not authorized him to say, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods. Does Muhammad speak in the name of another god?
Yes.
Yes, he does. In fact, he uses the name all the time. Allah, Allah, the God, the God. It means generic, really, the God. We know quite a bit about Allah, and we now know that this is actually a pre-Islamic pagan name. This is a pagan name for a God that also has a formal name named Hubal, and we know that this Arab pagan Hubal had 3 daughters, Alat, Al-Manat, and Al-Uzza, which you probably don't know about, Romo, but that is actually part of the satanic verses found in Surah 53. Those 3 daughters are listed in Surah 53. These are the 3 names of the goddesses that Muhammad should not have included in the Quran, and that's why Gabriel came to him when Medina and said, you've been seduced by Satan. These are satanic verses, excites them out. He threw them out, but he left 3 names there. And in leaving the 3 names there, it exposes who this God is. This is not the God that we read about in this book. The God in this book does not have 3 daughters. The God in this book has no daughters.
Exactly.
In fact, If a god, Allah, whose other name is Hubal, has three daughters, Alat, Al-Manat, and Al-Uzza, then that's a polytheistic god, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, actually, the god that Muhammad uses is actually a pre-Islamic pagan polytheistic god, Arabic pagan god. But let's continue on, coming back here. Rather than get into that whole controversy, let's come on back here and let's see what it says there. So a god, if anyone does not listen to my words, that the prophet speaks in my name, I will call him to account. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded him to say, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, must be put to death. Ooh, what is the Bible telling me to do? I must put this prophet to death. So when Muslims bring Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15 and verse 18 to me, I said, read verse 19 and verse 20 before you use 18. If you really believe this is Muhammad, if you want to say this is Muhammad, then you're going to have to read the rest of the verses that put the context to that.
Because that gives us the test of a true prophet.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Every prophet must know God's personal name. Every prophet must come and give God's message and does not contradict God's message. And every prophet must not use the name of another God. And if he does, we're to put him to death. I must put Muhammad to death. I have no other option. I must put Muhammad to death according to my Bible. So you can see why they don't, after usually when go read the rest of the verses, usually Muslims don't like to bring Deuteronomy 18 to me anymore.
No.
Because that really eradicates them. So the next one is Song of Solomon 5, verse 16. In Song of Solomon 5, verse 16, it's very clear here Song of Solomon, it goes very clear. It says, his mouth is sweetness itself. He is altogether lovely. This is my lover, this my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Altogether lovely is Mahmud in Hebrew. Mahmud sounds like Ahmad, doesn't it?
Yes.
And remember, in Surah 61, Ayah 6, it's very clear that Jesus is going to talk about, he's actually introducing a prophet who comes after, whose name is Ahmad. Ahmad is a diminutive of Muhammad. So they think they have found Ahmad in the Old Testament. It's in Song of Solomon 5, verse 16.
Is that
Altogether
the case?
lovely. Well, Ahmad means glorious thing. The glorious thing. It's actually a proper noun. Altogether lovely, Mahmud is an adjectival phrase. What they have done is they've taken the adjectival